Jesus says, "Time is a precious good. Use it wisely. Don't waste it." So, you wish to have this word explained too? Well then, right, since nothing is more abundantly wasted by you humans than time itself. That is, the time that is allotted to you as a trial life. You see, none of you know what time is, what it means and what value it has. Otherwise, you would all live differently than you do now. However, in order to teach you the concept of this word, worthy of a spiritual being, as you humans should be, I want to explain this concept to you, as much as finite beings can grasp the infinite. So, what is time? And how do you know that there really exists such a thing as time? Time is nothing more than a section of the thought of eternity, a small fragment of a great infinite whole. You would not know what time is if you could not measure it in terms of material things, where a period of time has elapsed between coming and emerging, and disappearing and passing away, which, as you do, can be measured or expressed with numbers. Only in the visible is time measurable. In eternity, however, where space no longer has any dimensions, there it is where the measure of time ceases. There it is where concepts and ideas prevail that are not comprehensible for finite beings. For this very reason, a finite being can never understand me, the timeless one, because even though the eternal continuance is imaginable for them, the idea that it is possible for something to never have had a beginning at all remains an absurdity, something incomprehensible and unthinkable. Therein lies the difference between me and the entire spirit world. It is this word, time, that defines my divinity more than anything else, for space itself cannot be measured or understood without time. So, time is, symbolically speaking, the most suitable expression for my greatness, because time, as a concept, has always existed and always will be, whether you want to measure it or not. So you see, if you look at this greatest of factors, time, in this way, then it alone can give you an idea of me and a concept of my creation. In multiple time periods did creation take place, one out of another, one after another. And in multiple time periods will these worlds I have created develop, perfect themselves, and in multiple time periods will they pass again, giving way to new forms, new worlds, new creations. And so is time the only measurement by which my creation can be judged. For time as quantity, time as distance, and time as duration of a created object give it value, content, and sphere of influence respectively. Whatever my worlds carry out there in the infinite and eternal ether, and in multiple periods of time, is exactly what happens on a smaller scale with every created thing, together with its duration. Only time gives the stone its size, its duration, and again it is time that determines the value of the lives of living beings. And that is why the term time cannot be wiped from creation any more than I myself. Without time, there is no world, and without me, there is no time. What is the time period of human life from cradle to grave? It is nothing but a section of infinity, expressed merely by numbers, observable in a visible, created being in its emergence, its development, and its decay. Without these visible changes, no time could be measured, if you had not received a timepiece by counting the change of days or the change between day and night. Time has no beginning and no end. It emerges from infinity and flows back into it without a trace. Only visible creations testify of its coming and going. Otherwise, it would be immeasurable. Time, then, as the measure of every created thing, indicates its duration, within which it must have qualified to advance along the great ladder to the spiritual realm. This time is also the measure for spiritual beings, within which it is imposed on them to fulfill certain missions. For just as the great worlds and solar systems have their appropriate duration, so do all created beings have certain time frames that determine their lives, that is, until the next metamorphosis. The time for the great construction of the world is a definite one, because after it has taken its course, other conditions occur which are now regulated by other worlds. This time in particular is therefore measured, and throughout it must be carried out what, according to the plan of the whole, is precisely necessary for the maintenance of the individual as well as the whole. What is now the case with the worlds also applies to every single creation, including man. A certain period of time is given to him, from birth to death, during which he must complete the mission of his trial life. However, since man is a free being, as well as a sophisticated amalgam of spiritual and material aspects, only he is permitted to complete in the hereafter what he was unable to achieve here during his corporeal, earthly life. For man is a child of two worlds, the spiritual and the material. It is precisely because of this relationship that so many spaces in the ether are brimming with souls that have died in an immature state, having to complete there what they could not here. Otherwise, a transition from the material world to the spiritual dwelling places would be possible for them directly, which, however, cannot occur, since the souls of men, most of them unfortunately, arrive in the other world in an immature state. But what becomes clear from this revelation? You see, it becomes clear that men should use their lifespan, that is to say, the time of their earthly walk, to make their spirits as prepared as possible for the other world, so that they would be spared these intermediate realms. That is why I give you this message about time, so you would become aware of the great value of time, and that this wasted good is lost for you forever. You must take your life far more seriously than before. You must attach a far greater value to time than you have hitherto done. Words like pastime should not be part of your vocabulary, for you must beware. It is time that is passing you, or other sayings such as killing time, because it is time that brings you death, not the other way around. Time, breaking up into small parcels, each of these parts must have value as a spiritual building block for future life, and even if it is small, it must not be worthless. Time is the strictest reckoner of your deeds, and everything, good and bad, considered and ill-considered, hasty, everything finds its appraiser in time. Since time does not return what has happened, you must spare no expense to have as little of what you wish to retain entered into these time registers, for due to its irretrievability, it remains as an eternal reproach, an eternal thorn, and thorns wound, sting. If it were not for my merciful love, what would a man have to do to blur the memory of all the things that have been done which time stubbornly refuses to give him back? Only my fatherly hand can heal these wounds which the past thorns of disapproval have caused. Therefore, use your time. Do not waste it. The time is I. The time is the trial, life, or walk measure, which one day you must faithfully give back to me as a loaned good. Time is the talent I give everyone at birth as a gift. Do not bury it. Use this talent, so it might yield you much and great interest in the hereafter. Remember, with everything you gain here, you are shortening your time of wandering beyond in that middle realm, where progress and the measure of time is far more burdensome. It is true, I have prepared great bliss for my children, but this applies only to those who can reach the places where said bliss is dispensed, which only those who feel well there can endure. For as long as earthly slack and passions still cling to you, you cannot reach the place where time is not a strict judge of you, but a lovely friend, a companion who steadily leads you forward between blissful pleasures and joys, where you, confidently looking back, will have little or nothing to regret. Take these words to heart. They are words of a father who wishes to let his children enjoy what he has reserved for them, and therefore admonishes you to not use time, the outflow of his divinity, for material things, but for spiritual enjoyments. For time passes away, leading you to pass away and change as well. Well done of you when this transformation leads you to the places where he who has already given you so much may be felt, and not, as in the middle realm, merely be sensed. Time is the measure of the duration of the worlds, but it is also the measure of your deeds and works. So use it as is appropriate for spiritual and not material men who wish to be like me. For this purpose have I given you this word. Amen.